Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. This is live stream 885. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then we'll take a look normally at a tabletop game. So it's not as if we're engaging in rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination, just hanging out and having some fun. So tonight, I am going to unbox and take a first look at the Grizzled Armistice Edition from Cool Mini or Not. Yes, I know this has been out for a bit, but it is a Wednesday. Granted, this is not a war game, so I can't really say it's a war game Wednesday, but I guess I could say it's a game themed about a war Wednesday. So we're going to be taking a peek. So I'm actually excited. I've always heard good things about the Grizzled. And I'll talk about how I got my hands on this copy on the cheap as well when we dive on in. But, of course, I also want to mention, if you're not familiar with the stream, it's going to be a little bit of time before we jump on into that unboxing and first look, because we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So it's probably going to be about, I guess, 35, 40 minutes, maybe even a little longer, depending on how chatty I am tonight. See that pause there? That just made it even longer to wait to get into that first look. Anyway, so if you're watching live, kick back, come on, relax, take it easy. It's hump day. You're halfway to the weekend. But I should also mention that if you happen to be watching this 30 minutes or more after the stream has ended, there will be timestamps. So if you are impatient and you really want to dive on into that first look, there will be timestamps. You can click on that, jump ahead if you'd like. And then depending on what device you might happen to be watching this on, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline, right under your nose. All depends on what you happen to be using. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is obviously a live stream. At least it is at the moment. So if you are watching live, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you happen to be a subscriber to the channel, and if you have been a subscriber for at least 48 hours, you can take part in chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. So it looks like we've got a decent chat already rocking and rolling. Veteran Grizzled is first out the gate tonight in chat. And then we've got the Motor City Madman. Yes, that's right. The Madman is with us once again. Deja Vu, Chuck Terrell, Roger Prudhomme, Kathy Evans, Stray Kismet, Kevin R. Smith, Flaming Huron, another of our chat moderators. So we've got a couple of them present. We might even have Mr. Eddie T and Sarah D lurking. So that would be 3 and 4 as far as our chat moderators go, keeping the peace. Shaz is with us, as is Lord Cost 2000 and Tessie Trekkie. So get a nice chat off and running already. Speaking of off and running, let's jump on into the news. As I see Coco B has popped on in. Coco B says, unusual commenters, Kyle Brink is here? Gotta be honest, that name does not ring any bells for me. I have no idea who Kyle Brink might happen to be. March brings a brand new entry into the Exit the Game series from KOSMOS. Here's the scoop on the professor's last riddle. Still reeling from the news of your favorite archaeology professor's passing, you've been enlisted in a rather peculiar assignment. It seems that instead of a will, he's left an envelope with some postcards and a series of clues. Grab your passports. You're about to embark on a global treasure hunt. Can you solve the riddles and uncover the mystery of the professor's legacy? I would guess no, I would not be able to. You may recall quite some time ago, I did a live stream where we tackled one of the exit games, and it was not even one of the most complex exit games. And it was all of, I think it was 3 live streams it took for us to figure it. I shouldn't say us. People in chat were helping. It was all on me. All that hemming and hawing going, I don't know. It's all on me. But this is a series of fun and challenging escape room and mystery solving games. If you're not familiar with Exit the Game, they're timed riddle solving games with imaginary scenarios. It's completely card based and unplugged. No apps or any sort of software is needed. And it does require out of the box thinking. Literally, some components may be marked up, folded, torn, or otherwise manipulated during gameplay. Exit the Game, the professor's last riddle, is for 1 to 4 players. Actually, to be honest, it's for as many players as you want it to be, truthfully. Ages 12 and up, plays in around 60 to 120 minutes, unless you are me. Then you're looking at probably 3 or 4 hours or more. This is going to carry an MSRP of $17.95 when it arrives next month. I think that this is a mid-level complexity. 3 out of 5, I think it's 5 dots that they use. So we've got Dante Viper Brendolini here in chat with us. I think we saw somebody else sneaking on in. Maybe not. Maybe that was the new person that I saw pop up. So I just saw who. Brink is the Wizards of the Coast guy who put his foot in his mouth recently. Gotta be honest, I don't stay on top of everything going on with WotC. I really don't. Essentially, I have too many companies that I cover. So that's why I don't tend to, dive on into everything that that comes out of Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast or whatnot. Kind of curious what he said. If anybody wants to sum that up for me, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that after the news. Luke Anzalotti has joined us. Welcome. We got a nice chat off and running early tonight. So thank you, everybody, for coming on in and hanging out on a Wednesday evening, or at least it's Wednesday evening in my neck of the woods. On to our next news piece. Arriving next month as well from Arcane Wonders is Dice Manor. Here's the deets. World-renowned property developers Mundane Manors Inc. are tired of making the same old boring dream homes. The corporate suits are looking to rebrand, and they've challenged you their designers to dream big and create the most lavish homes ever imagined. The player who is able to build and market the most magnificent manor will be victorious. Over 4 rounds, players will use their dice to bid for blueprints, earn advertising space, collect inspiration tokens, and give early tours of their manor, all leading up to the final round where it's time for the grand opening of their completed manors in the hopes of earning the most praise from the community. The player who gets the most prestige, aka victory points, is the winner. Dice Manor is for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 30 to 45 minutes. It'll carry an MSRP of $44.99 when it arrives on February 22nd. Looks kind of cool. It's a kind of a tile laying game. You know me. I dig those tile laying games. It doesn't look like this is a kind of like a Tetris sort of tile laying, though. Oh, look at this. The Kingdom of the Spiders lives on as a tiny little spider is making its way down. I don't think it's going to be on camera for, oh yeah, maybe it will be. You're probably just seeing a tiny little smudge. So this is what I normally will do when I have a spider floating on down. I just take them off. To the side. I'm not cruel. I mean, even though it's a little bug still. I mean, come on. Anyway, this looks kind of interesting. We might actually be getting Arcane Wonders on board one of these days. Because when my pal Tony Galati was with them, we did see a few review items. But then he left, and that was pretty much it. Didn't really, no one over at Arcane Wonders picked up the ball and went, carried on. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, they kind of sort of touched base on Twitter, and I sort of touched base back to see maybe get something going on here. All right. So Kevin is talking about what Kyle Brink happened to say. So I will actually go back to this, and we will talk about this. We will discuss this. I'll scroll back to this point in chat to read that because it's a little long-ish, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when I wrap up on the news. All right, how about some role-playing game news? Because hitting stores later this month is Mirkberg Icon. Here's the skinny from Free League Publishing, and yes, I know some folks out there, they like to call it Morkborg. Ha! Mirkberg. I know it's not really that. It's more like Mirkberg, I think is, if I remember correctly, that's what I was told officially. But because no one pronounces it correctly, the folks over at Free League Publishing are like, yeah, Morkborg's fine. Forged by the left hand of Necrobel, bound in cured skin and soot black wood, the ancient god vessels known as icons are detested by the two-headed basilisks. Wielding their powers unfettered, the profound, shackled within is a serious heretical crime, and whoever may carry these blackened shrines will forever be hunted by the Inquisition. But perhaps it's worth it. Icon is a mystery box for Mirkberg, a jail keeping 4 almost forgotten folk gods at bay. The Bilkherd, the Becklure, the Old Dead, and the dreaded Silk Fiend. Those who dare commune with them are promised great rewards, but life and death go hand in hand, and too small a sacrifice could be perceived as an insult. This gift could very well be a curse. This contains a box set, which has rules on how to unfetter the profane profound, 4 tracks, one for each god creature, detailing their gifts and punishments. And I think, even though it's not included here, I think they're about 25 pages long. I think they're like 24, 26, something that like that. It's written by Pelly Nielsen, but torn apart and rebuilt by in a stranger, darker form by Fiona Mauve Geist and Jarrett Crater of the Moonrat Conspiracy. There are over 40 full-page illustrations by the masterful Paraguayan artist Samuel Araya, whose oil paintings will bring the profane profound to blasphemous life. The Morkborg Icon box set will carry an MSRP of $24.99 when it hits stores on February 28th. So there you have it. I believe we're going to get a chance to take a peek at this. I know someone a couple of days ago had asked if I was going to be sharing a look at Pirate Borg, and I believe so. So I have touched base with one of my 2 contacts. Remember, I had mentioned there's actually 2 contacts I have for Free League Publishing. One is out of the office, my usual contact. She's out of the office for a bit. But my other contact is there. I did touch base. We should be seeing this as well as Pirate Borg when they arrive. Because Pirate Borg's hitting stores, I believe, at the same point on the 28th. So we've got somebody new in chat. Stray Kismet is with us, as is Jesse Lolly. Hopefully I came close to that pronunciation. So welcome aboard. Stray Kismet says, when I grow up, I want to be like Jeff. No, you don't. No, you do not. First of all, you got to go have triple bypass surgery. You're not going to want that. No. You'll take a pass on that. All righty. So once again, Icons is hitting stores on the 28th, carrying an MSRP of $24.99. One thing I was going to mention, I had heard that the Kickstarter backers got copies that the printer had made a mistake on, because I guess the booklets inside are supposed to have blank black covers. Because I guess when you're supposed to, I guess, awaken these godlings or fallen gods, whatever, these icons happen to be, that you're not supposed to know which one it is. And unfortunately, the printer put the covers on backwards, so they show what they are. So I guess Free League Publishing was even offering people who had gotten their copies new print runs, because it kind of ruins the whole mystery box concept of this when you have the actual gods presented right on the cover. So James Eck is with us in chat saying Pirate Borg is going to be somewhat delayed. They're actually making a change. All righty. Well, hopefully, oh my gosh, what another printing error that slipped through. Vaughn Moore's with us. Welcome, Vaughn. Thanks for stopping on in on a Wednesday evening. So it's problematic wording. Well, that's never good. Arriving this spring is a new edition of Call of Cthulhu Nameless Horrors from my friends over at Chaosium Inc. Here's what I know. And I will point out the images that I'm sharing with you are from the old edition of Nameless Horrors, because all that's available for this is the cover. And interestingly enough, you can't even find this on the Chaosium website. I got this info from a distributor. So Funny enough, Chaosium may not have even announced this yet. So I don't know. The horrors of the Cthulhu mythos are far worse than death. The entities lurking in this collection of scenarios have never been seen before. We're budding novices or seasoned investigators. Your players will find themselves on uncomfortable ground. This new edition of Nameless Horrors contains brand new art, player handbooks, and maps for each of its 6 standalone adventures. In Amaranthine Desire takes place in the doomed seaport of Dunwich, England. Ah, psych. You thought it was going to be in Lovecraft country. The year is 1892, where strange echoes of the past threaten the present. A Message of Art, a gathering of artists in Paris, 1893, sees art and the occult come together in a dangerous fusion. And some fell on stony ground. 1920 small town America, where trouble is brewing that could sweep everyone up in a wave of death and destruction. Bleak Prospect, Massachusetts, 1932. During the Great Depression, the residents of a shanty town face strange horrors that jeopardize all they hold dear. And we've got The Moonchild, modern day England, where an experiment with the occult casts long shadows and brings unforeseen consequences. And we'll wrap up with The Space Between. In modern day Los Angeles, the star of a film produced by a popular religious organization has vanished. Well, I wonder, is that possibly Scientology that's in this adventure? I wonder. This book is designed to be used with the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game and optionally the Pulp Cthulhu supplement, both available separately. This is set for a March release, at least according to the distributor that I got this information from. I don't have an MSRP, but I'm going to guess. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to take a stab. It's going to be either $49.99 or very possibly $54.99. That's kind of my guess. So taking a kind of a stab in the dark on that, because I do not have any MSRP information, even from the distributor. They're not indicating that. So Tessie Trekkie says the Pirate Borg book refers to a picture of a dark-skinned zombie as a monkey, a rope monkey, to be precise. I don't know. On one hand, it's a zombie, for crying out loud. But on the other hand, you would think, hey, you folks ought to know better. Come on. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? All right, my final news piece. Currently up for crowdfunding is Cities Without Number. And here's the latest from designer Kevin Crawford and Sine Nomine Publishing. A world of chrome and rust. After the sci-fi success of Stars Without Number, the fantastic response to Worlds Without Number, the new cyberpunk age of Cities Without Number is upon us. Within the pages of this tabletop role-playing game, you'll get a full-fledged, system-neutral Sine Nomine toolkit for building a cyberpunk world of your own. Plus, an old-school game system for playing out the reckless adventures of the desperate men and women who live in it. Whether polished metal or flesh and blood, your operators will risk their lives and more to seize those precious things a merciless world would keep from them. In particular, this book contains an old-school inspired game system fully compatible with the science fiction Stars Without Number game and its fantasy sister game, Worlds Without Number. Cyberware and sophisticated high-tech gear suitable for chroming the most discriminating cyborg and equipping the most refined of street operators. Playability-focused hacking rules designed to give hacking-focused PCs useful and important things to do without forcing an entire separate mini game on the GM. There's gear rules for drones and vehicles, the better equipped PCs who want to bring a little extra iron to their next mission. There's the system neutral Sine Nomine building tools for helping a GM create their own custom cyberpunk world or elaborate the details of existing worlds and settings. Gang, corp, and city district creation tools for fleshing out your world with people and places that fit. There are 50 mission tags for adventure creation, plus guidelines and step by step procedures for handling facility infiltrations, managing local heat, fencing loot, and other activities beloved of corp hating street scum everywhere. And that's just in the free edition that will be released on Drive-Thru RPG for anyone to download. As with Stars Without Number and Worlds Without Number, Cities Without Number will be provided in both a free and a deluxe version. The better to let an interested group jump in and play without having to spend anything. As a backer, you'll be getting the deluxe version, of course, which will also include variant engineered human types for PCs that don't fit the baseline mold, spellcasting and summoning rules for GMs who want to add a dash of magic to their cyberpunk world. Kind of reminds me of another game out there. Additional content creation tools, which will give an extra boost to a GM's creative efforts, and several open pages which will be filled with the contents that backers seem most interested in having. The Kickstarter for Cities Without Number has already passed the 700% funding mark, and you can reserve a copy of the deluxe PDF for a I should take that back, for a $25 pledge. You can get the deluxe PDF and an at-cost print-on-demand certificate for a $40 pledge. This is through February 28th. Expected delivery of the final product is going to be next February. Sweet. So something else I should mention, that there is it's a beta, but it's a pretty solid beta. It's about 167 pages that is available for download. So that's actually where you see the pages I'm sharing, not the artwork, but the pages come from that beta version out there. So if you go to the Kickstarter, you can definitely check that out there. I would normally put the Sine Nomine web address up, but it is super long. It's actually longer than that little slide is. And Kevin Crawford never updates it. So it actually has not been updated since, I think, 2016. So I figured I'll just put Kickstarter up there for you. And of course, tomorrow morning, there will be a news piece on thegaminggang.com, which will have all the links you need to check out this Kickstarter. But yes, it is yet another game system from Kevin Crawford, and I know people are really, really pumped. So there you have it. That is the news for tonight. So I know there were some comments about the last two news pieces here. So Madman says Nameless Horror sounds like the project they've been working on for work. Tessie Trekkie says the Cities Without Number Kickstarter includes 90% of the book laid out, sans art in PDF for backers to access already. There you go. Okay. Yep. Is that really 90%? Because I would have thought that book's going to be longer. Because, like, off the top of my head, I thought it was like 167 pages, something like that, the PDF. And usually, like, isn't Worlds Without Number over 300 pages? And I think that's even the free book. So Kevin says they love that cover mock-up, even though cyberpunk really isn't their thing. Of course, Crawford usually has a free or pay what you want version. A lot of basic stuff. Yes, of course. There we go. Liquid Nebula is with us saying hello from the Caribbean or Caribbean, however you'd like to pronounce that. All right. So, anyway, like I said, that was the news for tonight. Now, I did not mention anything from Drive Through RPG, although we will assume, of course, I think it actually said that in the news piece, that Cities Without Number will be available over at Drive Through RPG. But don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit, say, Drive Through RPG or DM's Guild or Storyteller's Vault, what have you, by all means, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find the gaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always swing on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And the madman earlier today stopped on by making a donation, and it was not a small donation. So, much obliged, sir. You're a gentleman and scholar. So thank you, everybody out there who does use the banner ads for the One Bookshelf sites. They're usually almost always Drive Through RPG. Every once in a while, there'll be a banner ad for Storyteller Vault or Dungeon Masters Guild. But thank you very much. And thank you to those out there like the madman who swing on over by paypal.me. Thank you kindly. All right. So let me jump back. So there was that discussion of Kyle Brink. So Kyle Brink took over the open game license crisis response, starting with the 1.2 draft. He said in an interview with Three Black Halflings, okay, that's all I need. It's all you needed to tell me. I don't even know who Three Black Halflings are, but I'm going to guess. Says that guys like me, old white guys, can't leave the hobby fast enough. So Kevin says, or maybe he just meant white guys. I think he can't be older than 40. He also said some other ... interesting things in that interview, but that's what everybody's been talking about. Okay, so I'll address that in a second. Let me compute that. So Dante said Goodman Games The Dark Tower is gonna be epic. 3-book slipcase. Yeah, I don't know if my benefactor is gonna send that along. Gotta be, I don't know. Dante says it's 150 bones. Tessie Trekkie said they'll be more than happy to send me some spiders from Australia in a surprise box. So, speaking of spiders in Australia, and this show's not for kids, so I do swear on occasion. Is there really a saying along the lines of, what are we doing here? Fucking spiders? Or something like that? I heard Margot Robbie talking about that. I was like, what? And she even said, I don't even know what it's supposed to mean. Okay, so, all right, so there was our discussion about the rope monkey being changed to a deck ghoul. Okay. All right. So Kevin says they backed his last Kickstarter for the Atlas of the Latter Earth. Yes, which is for Worlds Without Number. It had great stuff like how to use a setting book. So Flaming Heron says, the more WotC changes, the more they remain the same. Dante says, you can't mess with Jeff. People can mess with me. It's okay. Stray Kismet says, I don't know why, but I wanted I wanted the gaming gang flag for their traveler costume at cons. Get all the questions. I don't know. Would people even ask? I don't know. Way back in the day, we had shirts, and they weren't T-shirts either. They were polo shirts. Uh, oh gosh, I think we were probably around about 2 years, and our logo was way different. And I had a friend who worked for a company that did that. So it was all stitched real nice, really nice. So I had some and I bought some for Elliot and sent them to the Chicago area. This is when I lived in Arizona at the time. And it was we wore them to the conventions and that. I mean, yeah, I, as weird as this might sound, the gaming gang was much bigger deal 10 years ago than it is now. Because for one, when we started, there were not a lot of outlets out there. There were not many, and we were really the only one, including the Dice Tower. We were the only one that actually had news and reviews on a website and a podcast. So most of the outlets that were out there, and like I said, there weren't many, and some of them are long, long gone. Game On with Cody and John was one. Now I've been told the Spiel is still around, but I never hear anything about him. So I don't know. I got to remember, I don't follow other outlets much. I'm too busy doing stuff because I don't have a big team. You know, the design work, the videos, everything, all that's me. Everything that's, being posted on the website, that's all me doing it. I may not necessarily write it all, but anyway, so we were actually a news site, reviews, and a podcast, which at that point in time, no one, and I'm including the Dice Tower, and I'm not knocking the Dice Tower. I'm just saying at that time, the Dice Tower was just a podcast, and their website had links to their past episodes. That's what it was. And of course, it was only, it was, yeah, I was going to say, I'm trying to remember if Sam was Tom's co host when we first launched. I don't think so. I think it was, Eric was pretty new, I think. So Flaming Air says Jeff is all the gang that is needed. Well, no, there are other contributors. And contributors come and go, just like, I had thrown that offer out for people to review PDFs for role-playing games because I have loads and loads of publishers out there. Well, some of them are fairly small, but still they're asking, hey, you think you could review this? And it's like, I don't do reviews for PDFs. It's just, I used to do written reviews. I just don't do written reviews anymore because I don't know how to write. No, it's because I'm too busy doing other stuff. It's far easier for me to shoot a video or less time constraining, I guess, to shoot a video. And to me, I just have a little more fun shooting a video than I do, writing a review. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't sit there and edit stuff that gets sent in for review, from correspondence. Sammy, I almost never need to touch her stuff. Her stuff's pretty pristine as is. All right, so I said I would address this nonsense this Kyle Bling or whatever the hell his name is said with Wizards of the Coast. And this has more to do than with just simply gaming. So I don't know where the whole white folk self-loathing comes from. I don't. I have no idea. I don't know if it's because these people know that in their past they actually have things that they should be ashamed of that they've done. I mean, I don't know, but to me, I find it pretty ridiculous. For one, and I'm not going to get into a whole soapbox or anything, but I've said this time and time again that when people talk about, the treatment of Native Americans, African Americans here in the United States through our history, I mean, it's appalling. There is no getting around it. It is appalling. It's not something that's unique only to Americans, obviously enough. But my ancestors weren't here. My ancestors were still over in Europe. So I maybe that's why I don't have this like angst. Now that's not to say that I don't believe that people of color have been held down and are continuing to be held down in this country. I certainly do. I think all of you out there who watch a few episodes of this stream probably get an idea that I am a pretty liberal guy. But I don't go that I'm not some wokey. And one reason is because that term has actually been appropriated from Black Americans. So it's like, okay. And I mean, I understand it. Originally it was like, yeah, wake up, man. You need to wake up and look around, and then you'd be woke. Now it's just getting your panties in a bunch over everything. And to me, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Um, I've said this before that there are a lot of people who like to sit and talk about how uh, how there was all this gatekeeping in the hobby years ago. Like, let's say when I first started, well, no, when I first started getting into gaming, it wasn't really that big a hobby. It's never been that big a hobby. But when, let's say the 90s, right? When my best friend Elliot and I and some of our other friends were, now we were in our 20s, and we'd go up to Gen Con in Milwaukee. And I've said it before. I mean, you'd see very, very few women, and you saw nearly nobody of color up there at all for the convention. We didn't really think about it. It was sort of like, okay. But no, the whole point where these people talk about all the gatekeeping that went on, for one, most of those people talking about that weren't even part of the hobby. They weren't even around. So that's one thing that pisses me off is assholes like this guy. If he's 40 years old talking about how, oh yeah, well, the sooner old white men like me get out of the hobby, the better. It's like, what are you talking about, man? You weren't even around to build the hobby. So that's something else that pisses me off too. It's all these people are, want to tell us about, like, oh, Gary Gygax, he was racist, and Dave Arneson, he was racist. Well, it's pretty fucking easy to say stuff like that when they're dead. And nothing I've ever encountered has led me to believe that either one of those gentlemen were racist. Now, that's not to say that they didn't grow up in a time where the common line of thinking was different. I'm not saying that that's not the case. And it's possible, maybe, they were racist, but they certainly didn't display it. I don't know. Flaming Heron says, I don't know that there has ever really been gatekeeping. We've always been an accepting group. It was generally because certain people didn't play tabletop role-playing games, not because they weren't welcome. See, that's another thing, and I don't want to get hung out to dry by saying something like that, where it's like, well, people of color didn't have any interest in our geekdom. It wasn't just, going and like playing tabletop games. we're talking science fiction movies and things like that. I mean, I'd go into like science fiction bookstores and stuff. I don't recall seeing too many people other than white guys. So, I mean, I don't think anybody was standing there at the door keeping them out. So, Kevin says, I'm sure there are some people who are exclusionary. Oh, I'm certain there were too. I'm not doubting that. But I see no evidence that the hobby was less welcoming than America in general in its early days. See, now the funny thing too that I have to chuckle about is that a lot of these people who sit there talking about how gamers would exclude certain groups, certain individuals, and things like that. I never personally saw that. I never personally acted that way. I have never had an issue with anybody who wanted to play and hang out. I've had friends of friends show up of all different stripes to play, board games and stuff like that. Never had an issue. As long as you weren't a jerk, then you were always welcome at my table. And I've said that many, many times before. But the thing is, early on in this hobby, the whole, oh, well, there were gatekeepers. A lot of that's bullshit because we were dorks. We were the geeks. Geekdom was not a thing to be like, yeah, I'm excited to be part of this. Not when I was younger. Luckily, I didn't, no offense, I didn't look like a guy who would be playing role-playing games growing up. So, and you know what I mean, and I don't mean anything negative to other folks out there, but, there are people that I have actually heard people say this, where it's like, oh, they look like they be playing Dungeons and Dragons in their parents' basement, which is actually a lot of fun. People don't realize that. Smartasses when they say that. So Jesse says, back when we hit our dice. Yeah, usually, I mean, nowadays you got people walking around, they got their bag of dice with them everywhere. We weren't carrying bags of dice unless we were going someplace to game. That was it. So yeah, the whole, oh, we were keeping people out. I don't buy into a lot of that. Now, that's not to say that you didn't have gamers, because we have them now. So I'm sure we had more of them back then. Gamers who were, homophobic or bigoted. I'm not saying that didn't exist. What I'm saying is it did not exist in the sheer numbers that some of these people like to present it as. And the people who present that are usually people who weren't even around. So, Liquid Nebula says, when you think about it, I believe these type of games wouldn't be found in minority community / neighborhoods at the time. A little bit, because I've known people of color that I've had discussions with who have been role-playing as long as I have and longer, and they were exposed in their, neighborhoods. So I don't think it would have been like into projects and stuff, but like I said, I don't know. Liquid Nebula says, I don't mean minorities weren't exposed to games, but it was very hard to get exposed to games in their own, or well, he says, in our own communities. Liquid Nebula also says, we all roll some kind of dice. We are all gamblers to the dice gods. So Strike Kismet says, I've been convinced that my players just have a gambling problem. That's right. The game doesn't matter. It's just rolling the dice. So I guess all I'm basically saying is this guy from Wizards of the Coast is just another asshat, wokey. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say, because then we're going to jump into our brief intermission and the Grizzled. But I've said this multiple times. I'm going to say it once again, that these not all of them. I'm not going to paint everybody with the same brush, but there are some of these game companies who present themselves as being, as left as you can possibly be, who are full of shit. And I'm going to tell you one thing right up front. Hasbro is one of them, and that trickles down into Wizards of the Coast. And Wizards of the Coast can roll out all the wokies they want. The only color they care about is green. So don't get suckered into that whole routine. But once again, this sounds like just some asshat, some self-loathing white guy who, is going to just sit there and, talk about how people like myself should get out of the hobby because it'd be better for it, whatever. Yes, thank you. It was Kevin just said the exact word I was going to say. He says, I'm sure Kyle Brink was pandering. That was the word I was going to say. Said he's probably just pandering to the audience because he knew the name of the channel he was on. Verdant Grablocks, yeah, business is just going to go where the wind is blowing. Rapscallion Jay's with us. Hey, Jay, good to see you. Liquid Nebula says, hey, Wizards of the Coast, I don't want representation because it's cool. I want representation because it's the right thing to do. Yes, I agree. So, like I said, we have problems in this country. We have race problems in this country, and systemic racism exists. If you don't think that's the case, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it. But it is an issue. And to me, when we sit there and we start getting into these whole ordeals where it's like, okay, this is probably going to get me in trouble. But I got to say it. So I have a problem where someone has let's say an outlet or a soapbox that they stand on, and their only selling point is the color of their skin or their sexual orientation. I have a problem where it's like, and it's not like any particular outlet or anything like that, but I would prefer someone to present themselves as, hey, you know what? I'm someone, I love board games, and I happen to be African American or Hispanic or Asian or Pacific Islander, what have you. And they're like, and that is part of their personality. That is part of who they are. And that's part of, like, say, their YouTube channel. I love seeing that. What I don't like seeing where it's like, well, I'm gay and it is all gay, all gay, all gay, all gay. You're only watching this channel for my board game news because I'm gay. I have a problem with that because it's like, okay, so you're gay like how many tens of millions of people out there? Okay. That's what makes you different. I don't know about that. So anyway, like I said, I'm not talking about any particular outlet or people or anything like that. It's just, I think you know where I'm coming from, where it's like, yes, I get it. I get it. You're asexual. Yes. Okay, cool. Do you need to tell me about it in every single video you share? I don't need to be, informed of this every single time you make a 10-minute video. That's what I'm talking about. And yes, I know somebody's going to be pissed off about me saying that, but I don't know what to say. All right. Anyway, so we have pontificated long enough. So Flaming Heron says virtual signaling, Jeff. Virtue signaling. Yes. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Just not a fan. Honestly, I'm one of these, you know what, money talks, bullshit walks kind of thing. So that's how I look at it. It's what you do that matters, not what comes out of your mouth that matters. There's a lot of people out there, they talk a good talk and they do not walk the walk. So anyway, so Liquid Nebula says all the labels are gimmicks to get clicks. Gallant Goblin is a great example of someone who's part of the LGBT community and focuses on the gaming. You know what? I didn't realize that he's part of the LGBT community. I didn't. I know who he is. And that's cool. But yes, once again, it's not like, that's his selling point. Oh, you want to watch me because I'm gay, damn it. Really? You ought to watch me because I'm straight. I like women. Really? It's like, I don't care. Tell me something I need to know. Tell me something interesting. Expand my mind. Get my creative juices flowing. It doesn't, people get mad when I use the phrase, I should say, doesn't matter. Because I understand it matters to them that they're African American. It matters to them that they're Hispanic. It matters to them that they might be bisexual or asexual or gender neutral, gay, what have you. It's important to them, and I get that. When I say it doesn't matter to me, I mean that is neither going to be a factor that it's like, oh, well, then I have to, make sure that I just wipe my hands of this. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're Hispanic and you're a gamer? Oh, no. That's not what I mean when I say it doesn't matter. What I mean is that I understand that. I see that. But what I care about is what you do, what you present, that your good deeds that you're performing. That's what's important to me. Like, people get upset because I share role-playing games designed by people on the right, and I share game reviews and role-playing game news from transgender people. Because as long as no one's being hurt by their actions, then the fact that that person is way to the right of my political views doesn't matter to me. Just like the other person being transgender, that doesn't matter to me. It's what, my reviews aren't based on, I found out that this guy voted for Trump. So there's no way I'm going to give them higher than a 7 out of 10. I'm not going to hold that against them. I certainly wouldn't vote for Trump, but still. All right. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move right along. So, because I honestly think after all this talk, it's time for a brief intermission.
Candy is dandy at the drive-in theater. Smooth, rich chocolate, chewy caramels, or creamy nougats. Whatever your favorite is, you'll find it here at the Refreshment Center. Come on in and take your pick. Treat yourself to some delicious candy.
Watering gardens is my line, says Green Thumb J. McGrew. But when you want to quench your thirst, then here's the thing to do.
You ought to make friends with Valley Forge, the beer with a wonderful flavor. Make friends with Valley Forge. Do yourself a big favor.
It's pale, it's light, it's smooth.
It always tastes just right, so you ought to make friends with Valley Forge, the beer with a wonderful flavor.
When friends drop in, invite them to make friends with Valley Forge. If they're like most people today, they like a modern beer, A beer that's pale, light, smooth. Yes, they like Valley Forge beer because every drop is brewed especially to suit the modern taste. For thirst-quenching refreshment, for downright satisfaction, there's just nothing quite like Valley Forge beer. In fact, the most a host can do for friends is serve Valley Forge.
So you ought to make friends with Valley Forge, the beer with a wonderful flavor.
Rock-a-bye, baby, in your cradle so fluffy. I can sleep, too, 'cause I drink Wilkins decaffeinated coffee.
Here come the Gung-Ho Commandos, best equipped boys in the field. All the equipment you need for fun and excitement in the Gung-Ho Commando outfit by Marks. Just look at all the things you get. There's a battle map and direction-finding compass, a cat-shooting automatic with gun belt and holster, a helmet, a canteen, complete mess kit and poncho. You get a cat-firing Gung-Ho hand grenade.
Gung-Ho!
And look here, this flashing battery-powered machine gun with moving ammo belt shoots rapid-fire bullets. There's a real-looking walkie-talkie, too, and a field pack. You get non-com stripes, medals and battle ribbons, even dog tags. It's all for fun and excitement.
Gung-Ho!
Get the outfit with all the equipment you need. The Gung-Ho Commando outfit.
Gung-Ho!
By Marks.
Yeah, that kid was going to town on that mess kit. I was like, holy God. It's just look like beans or something there. Yeah, gung-ho. Yeah, back in the day when they would sell like toy guns and stuff. Disavow 92 has joined us in chat. Sarah D's chiming in. Howdy, howdy. Welcome aboard. Sarah D happens to be one of our chat moderators. So before we jump into the Grizzled, do want to mention that Liquid Nebula had pointed out that, where was that? Said they're a Puerto Rican female who's also gay. They just focus on the gaming. Well, I'm not trying to say, well, oh, you can, I only expect people who are different than me in whatever way to only focus on gaming. God, no, not at all. But it's not like granted, I guess I could promote myself as the old dude, the old guy who's been gaming for 40 years. That's my shtick. I'm the old white guy who the hobby would be better off as soon as I leave. That's me. Welcome to my show, everybody. Thank you. So, the man says, no way that mess kit food was realistic, the way that kid was eating it. I think it was beans. It looked like beans. And from what I could tell, kid was... It's like, God. It's actually one of the reasons why I included it. As soon as I saw that kid, I was like, holy shit. All righty then. Today, I'm going to unbox and take a first look at the Grizzled Armistice Edition from Cool Mini or Not. Designed by Fabian Rafald and Juan Rodriguez, with artwork provided by Tignius. The World War I themed game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes per chapter, and carries an MSRP of $59.99. Swing it over to the other camera because here I've got the Grizzled Armistice Edition. So I actually picked this up from Tabletop Game Shop in Oswego, Illinois. It was on clearance. As I mentioned before, every couple of weeks or so, I popped in there to see what they've got because they have a clearance section. So this is normally $59.99. They had it for $17 95 cents. And I had heard good things about the Grizzled, so I picked it up. So this is not a review copy that has been sent from a company. In fact, this will be the first time I've actually even had my hands on a Cool Mini or Not game. I interviewed someone from CMON, gosh, probably 10 years ago at Gen Con. And I think they were just starting to produce some miniatures at that point in time. My guest is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. So Tessie Trekkie has pointed out that this game is absolutely brilliant and a wonderfully mournful game. The Madman has already pointed out it is not an easy game to win. So I'm going to take the shrink off here. So one of the big deals with this edition is that it has miniatures. I'm sure that the first edition of the Grizzled did not have minis. I think it was just a card game. This also includes the first expansion, or the only expansion, as well as some campaign rules. So, reading what's on the back here, the announcement of war has devastated families, shattered communities, and divided the world. And an inseparable group of friends has promised to both remain together and come home together. However, each passing day only brings more bad news. The trenches have become the group's new home. Despite everything, they have remained united. And now, rumors of an armistice give them hope. Will these brave friends survive the devastating effects of the Great War? The Grizzled Armistice transports you into the daily lives of a group of grizzled soldiers trying to survive in the trenches. This special edition provides a new immersive campaign mode made up of a series of unique and intense chapters where you must confront the major events of World War I. However, the 211 cards included in Armistice allow you to play both the original version of the Grizzled and At Your Orders expansion with or without the new features introduced in Armistice. Kevin says in their Pathfinder group, they're the only Gen Xer at the table, at least 20 years older than the next oldest. All right, come on, box. Get open. All right, so we've got our minis here. We're going to take a closer look at those. We have shrink wrap around, it looks like our rules. And then we've got, well, we'll find out in a second. So we're going to take a look at this other stuff in just a few moments. But kind of cool insert here, that's for sure. I like that. It's okay as far as thickness. It's not the thickest I've seen around, but not the worst either. So let's get the old hobby knife out here. So it feels like we've got some punch boards of counters. I'm hoping the cards are underneath those miniatures. Because otherwise, I guess I could see why it would be on clearance, huh? Okay, so here we got the rules. Yeah, we got some. Oh, I see. These are dividers, it looks like. So dividers for some of the cards. So we'll look at those in just a few moments. So here we've got the rule book. August 2nd, 1914. In the village square, the group of inseparable friends contemplate, stunned, the general mobilization order plastered to the town hall. For many weeks now, the papers had become worrisome, but the brutality of the announcement surprises everyone. Without having any idea of the hell in which they'll be plunged, they promise each other that they'll survive and come back together no matter what happens. Unfortunately, the reality they'll have to face will be much worse than their deepest fears. All right, so get a note of the intention. It says, at the same level as literature and cinema, games are a cultural medium which is undeniably participative. There are no subjects it can't broach, though some are more delicate than others. The life of the Grizzled is one of those, guided by the deepest respect that the suffering endured by these men has inspired in us. We've designed and tweaked this game with this constant concern. In this earnest endeavor, we've chosen to focus on the individual with his preoccupations and his daily fears, without ever touching on the warlike aspect. The Grizzled offers each player the chance to feel some of the difficulties suffered by the soldiers in the trenches. Thus, the emotions around the table will often be intense. The path to victory may seem difficult, but don't get discouraged, persist, and survive the Great War. So, some of the characters in this game were real people. Some are the ancestors of people who worked on this game. The Grizzled is an homage to all the people who lived through this tragic period. All right, so contents. We got 6 miniatures, all the various different cards. We have support tiles for the solo version, morale tokens, warning tokens, dividing tabs. It says the Armistice campaign is formed by an introductory mission, boot camp, and 9 chapters, each one unique, in which you will face the major events of the First World War. All right, so we get our how to play. So it says boot camp can be skipped by experienced players. So we get our chapter setup. So we have a briefing card. We have a morale reserve. We have no man's land. And then it looks like these are our characters, our players. It says a chapter is composed of successive missions. At the start of each mission, players will be dealt a number of cards from the Trials deck. During the mission, players will try to succeed in playing all their cards to no man's land without having 3 identical active threats revealed. If the conclusion of the mission did not trigger the end of the chapter, morale will drop. Cards will be transferred from the morale reserve to the Trials deck, and a new mission will be played. Players win the chapter at the end of a successful mission when the peace card is visible and they no longer have any cards in hand. Players lose the chapter if during a morale drop phase, the monument card becomes visible, or if the players have 13 or more cards in hand collectively. Quantum Phase Dragon is with us. Welcome aboard. I think I've said hello to everybody in chat. If somebody snuck in that I have not said howdy to, I apologize. So if our ended the mission, starting the mission, ending the mission. Trial cards. Make a speech. That's kind of interesting. It says if a player has a speech token, it allows them to encourage their comrades and protect them from one of the 6 threats. The active player chooses a threat and announces it to the other players. All the players except the one making the speech can then discard a single card, threat, or hard knock from their hand, which contains that specific threat. If a player has more than one of those threats, they can choose only one of them. Players who have already withdrawn do not benefit from the speech. Speech token is then discarded. So we have revealing support. Talking about if the mission's a failure. Playing the campaign. So we would actually have, looks like we have a campaign deck that we would be divvying those up in. And we have rewards. Orders of the day. This looks pretty interesting. So Kevin says they might have played this as a card game at a local convention a few years ago. I want to say that this did not have all these extras when it originally came out. I thought it was just a small, well, not tiny, not like a deck of cards box size, but kind of a box size, like about like so. I seem to recall that was about the size of it. Because I remember seeing this. I remember seeing this at Origins. we have one-shot games, solo mode, duo mode. You can play campaign or one-shot. And we get our credits here. All right, so those are the rules. Then we have these punch boards. So we've got, these are the speeches. My friends, don't be afraid. Hang on, we're almost there. And I will mention that the cardstock is pretty thick on these. Nice. Our friendship is our strength. Bravo to all. All right, and then we've got cups of coffee. More cups of coffee. These are gray. And we have negative points. So a divider, we've got some various tokens here as well. And then it looks like we've got some more dividers, as well as some more coffee. And we've got player aids. These are cool. Stray Kismet says, this is a portable game, huh? Ah, the box isn't that big. There we go. Nice. So rather than just have a card as a player aid, we get nice, thick tile here. Nice. Okay, well, we're going to look at the minis last. Say, there better be cards in here. Otherwise, they'll be like, yeah, that wasn't really that great a discount, was it? All right, move those over there. But yes, I see we've got a bunch of different decks of cards here. So I think these decks here with the chapters might be for the campaign game. Maybe not. No, that's all the cards. Okay, so this says this is the deck of campaign cards. Do not shuffle this deck of cards. Just place this deck on the table with this side up and flip over this card to begin your game. All right, so let me grab my hobby knife once again, because I think the campaign deck's probably only a few cards. So Shaz asks if those cups of coffee are Wilkins coffee. Yes, Wilkins coffee being sent to the front lines. Okay, so this is our campaign deck there, I believe. Oh, no, maybe not. Okay, so got these. This is boot camp, right? Let's learn how to play, right? To stop right at the end of the first mission. Chapter 1. So the question becomes, if you don't want to play the campaign game, what are you doing? Right? So this said 211 cards. I gotta be honest, that does not seem like 211 cards. But that's it. That's all that's in here. There are no cards in here. Nothing underneath. Huh, strange. So if these are supposed to stay in a specific order, I don't want it. I'm not going to take these apart to look into them. But we'll take a peek at this. So it looks like these are kind of just telling us a little bit of the story. These are the buddies, the friends. Oh, wow. Man points out that the artist of this game was actually killed in the Charlie Hebdo shooting in France. Holy shit. Wow. That's really sad. That's too bad. Well, it's too bad anybody was killed in that shooting. That was ridiculous. It's the reason why I'm an atheist fan, folks. Really is. There's a reason. All right, so August 1st. Then we move into boot camp. It says take the required cards for the game, which are the next ones. It says play through boot camp by following the basic rules in the rule book. So 15 trial cards. These are trial cards. So these are the trial cards for boot camp. So we got phobia, different phobias, trauma, probably fear of the dark. It's probably that. So the whistle to go over the top, gas mask, another gas mask. So that's nighttime. And that's no man's land. I assume that's daytime, no man's land. A shell, artillery shell coming in. Whistle to go over the top during the day. Whistle to go over the top during the rain. Artillery shell at night. Gas mask. Another artillery shell. Fleming Heron asks, fear of getting shot is the thing? Yeah, that would be that phobia. No. Or is that the artillery shell? That's the artillery. Maybe it's a bullet. Maybe that's a bullet, not an artillery shell. So there is that. And then we get our briefing afterwards. And then stop, read at the end of the first mission. So, okay. So this is how you set it up. Shuffle the 15 trial cards together and create the decks. So 10 cards go into the trial deck. And then it looks like the remainder of the cards go in the morale reserve. Deal 2 cards to each player. No speech tokens will be used during boot camp. Then you're going to play 1 mission. Quantum Face Dragon says atheism rules. Hey, I'm not here to knock anybody's faith. Okay, it's just I am not a believer. So that is all. I'm a humanist. That's how I like to present it. All right, so we've got that deck, and then of course we've got these other decks for chapter 2, chapter 3. So we have chapter 1. What was chapter 1? It was a battle. I could have swore it was a battle. Russenol? I don't know how to pronounce it. So we got the Battle of the Marne, Battle of Flanders. Comes after that. Verdun. Damn. Verdun, the mother of all battles. Battle of the Somme. The October Revolution. Oops, sorry, skip one. The Chemin des Dames. Then we got the October Revolution. Then we have the Second Battle of the Marne. And then Armistice, which is a short mission. So those are all the other decks. Okay, so let's take a peek at the minis. As I had mentioned on last night's show, so I'm going to guess there's tape. Yes. There be tape. Just grab your old hobby knife and slash through that tape. Anyway, I was going to say, as I mentioned last night, taking a look at the box, these look to be about 50 millimeter miniatures. So the Madman says their time in the military taught them to be hyper aware of their surroundings. He goes so far as to use reflections in glass to see who's near them. I know a lot of veterans do that as well. So I'm just taking a look here. I'll give you a closer peek at these. They're pretty well detailed and not too shabby as far as the paint jobs, although you can tell they're pre-paints. You can obviously see these are pre-painted miniatures. So not the kind of paint job that you would get if you did it yourself, if you are an experienced painter. So it looks like this character is supposed to be reading a paper. Right. Then smoking a pipe. It looks like they've got a couple of pails. One is a wooden pail, the other is a metal pail. Roger says, Battle of Verdun. Used to live in a city called Verdun in Canada, Quebec. Sure feels like a battle over there. So there we have that. All right, so this character just looks like they're hanging out. Looks like it's a bayonet maybe in their hand. And of course, a rifle in their other hand. So give you a closer look. I like these minis. And they are not soft. A little bit so. Well, yeah. I guess hopefully these have been treated pretty well. All right, so he's got a shovel. He's leaning on a shovel, smoking a cigar. You know, they've got a bunch of gear and packs. All right. So Bugler, he's also smoking a cigar. Take a peek here. Nice. And then the final of the friends just looks like he's just lugging along his pack, smoking a cigar. So Madman says, I do like those painted minis. Very nice. Right. So I should once again mention. So the Armistice Edition of the Grizzled carries an MSRP of $59.99. If you tuned in a little bit late, I mentioned that I picked this up over at the Tabletop Game Shop in Oswego, Illinois on clearance for, actually, I don't think this miniature slipped back in right, did it? Yeah, I guess it did. I picked it up for $17.95. Said, is that gun slightly bent? I'm sure it is, because it is relatively soft plastic. I didn't think it was, but it is. All right. Actually, I should have put this underneath. Anyway, last time I stopped in there, I had asked if they shipped. And the guy I've talked to when I go in there, his name is Frank. And he said, yeah, he said, you know, if somebody calls up and they want to order, we'll ship. So if I share these games, which I've gotten as clearance items, there were at least more copies when I picked this up. If you want to feel free, call the Tabletop Game Shop in Oswego, Illinois, and see if they still have copies of this on clearance. You can pick up a copy for $17.95. So, anyway, all right. So, Kevin says, fortunately, I don't think you have to move those miniatures very much, if at all. So, hopefully, they don't need to hold up to punishment. I don't think so either. I think they're just there as a representation of a character in front of you. That's all. Once again, we'll find out when I actually play this and do a review. So let's swing back over to the other camera. Flaming Heron says, wow, that's a steal if you can get it. That's why I'm mentioning it, because when I picked this up, I think there were still 3 more copies of this sitting there. So just like I had mentioned that the Dark Knight Returns that I shared a first look at was what, $109.99, but they had it on clearance with the minis, the edition that had the minis. They had it for $25.95. So I actually picked it up, and then when I stopped in and I got this, I was actually picking up some expansions for my best friend Elliot for Arkham Horror, because they had the 3 latest, I guess it's the only 3 expansions for the latest edition. And he had one of them, but he didn't have the other 2. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure I saw all 3 on clearance there. Sure enough, they had them. So I picked that up, picked up the Grizzled, and they still had 2 copies of the Dark Knight Returns. So I picked up another of the deluxe editions, which I'm going to give away as a gift. I almost said who I'm giving it to. And they sometimes watch the stream, so I guess I better not say anything. So, all righty then. Long show tonight, over an hour and a half. So I think it's time we should wrap this up. I will try to have a review of the Grizzled Armistice Edition in the relatively near future, keeping in mind this wasn't a review copy that was sent to me, so it's not like I'm under any pressure to review it at all. But I, obviously would like to share how it is, because folks in chat pointed out, the Madman and Tessie Trekkie both said it's a really good game. Not easy to win, which is fine with me. I have no problem with that. I like games that are challenging. That's why I like Black Orchestra. I think Black Orchestra is really well done, where you're trying to assassinate Hitler. And it is not easy to win that game. But it keeps you coming back. All righty. That's it for this time out. That's it for this week as well. Coming up next week, like I said, I am going to get a copy of Keys from the Golden Vault for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know when it's showing up. So we already know it's supposed to be in stores on February 21st here in North America. I'm thinking it might show up next week, maybe not. So I don't know. So if that does show up next week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, of course, we will be taking a first look. If not, all next week will be devoted to Kobold Press reviews. So we'll still have a couple of Kobold Press reviews if that D&D book shows up. So we're going to be taking a look at my review of Tome of Beasts 3 Layers, as well as Book of Ebon Tides. I'm double checking to make sure. It's like Book of Ebon Tides and it's Tales from the Shadows. And I just said it, Tales from the Shadows. So these are slated to be reviewed next week. So we'll have a Kobold Press week. Should also mention this weekend, you also find my second episode of the classic Cthulhu Case Files as I delve further into the shadows of Yog Sothoth with the second adventure, Look to the Future, and some thoughts about actually tackling this campaign these days, because this came out in 1982, as well as specifically talking about how I would approach the adventure Look to the Future. All right. Anyway, as I mentioned, that's it for this time out. So if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I upload other original videos, such as this month's edition of Why You Should Play, featuring the Index Card role-playing game from Runehammer Games and Modifius Entertainment. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. So, thank you very much for watching. If you watched live, if you were watching live, took part in chat, well, hey, you're one of the Grizzled. Welcome aboard. Hope you survived the First World War. Anyway, thank you very much for taking part in chat, because you not only keep me company and inform me of things going on in the world of tabletop gaming that flies under my radar, but you also keep each other company as well. So thank you very much for that. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. I appreciate each and every one of you taking time out to watch any of these videos on the Gaming Gang channel. So enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week and have a great weekend. Of course, I'll be back on Monday, and here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, that's okay. You don't have to leave just yet. In fact, why don't you subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel right here, or take a peek at the latest live stream, or even find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks again for watching.